Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Adrian Ramirez.
And where are you from?
I'm from Mexico.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you some questions about harassment and you will tell me different point of view.
Okay.
What is your perspective about harassment?
Okay, so what I think about harassment is that nowadays it's a very difficult situation that we're living on. Years ago, it was a topic that nobody liked to talk about, or everybody was like silent in silence. And now it's a big problematic, and I think that we should make a change with harassment.
And why do you think it was difficult to talk about it?
Well, not difficult to talk about it, because it was like something that nobody think the problem exists. Everybody thought like this topic was like machismo, but it's very different. And nowadays, something that is creating movements in society.
What do you consider as harassment?
Well, harassment for me is like this. Well, there are different type of harassment. Obviously, there are like this government harassment or these companies harassment. But I mainly, when the word harassment comes to my mind, I normally think that it's about how another person is giving you some pressure or is intimidating you.
Have you ever been harassed?
No, I haven't. I hope I've never been harassed.
Where do you think you're most likely to be harassed?
When Well, I think that there's not a place you can hide from harassment, but the public zones are, I think, that are the worst, because there are a lot of people there, and just like public roads and the nightclubs. But I think that it's not just in night, especially for the woman. It's like all day for them.
And have you seen like some kind of harassment?
Yes. Once I was with a girl. I was passing by some construction workers, and they were like watching her dress and like putting a lot of attention into her. So it was like kind of a difficult situation.
You felt how you felt like harassed too or
And no, I
uncomfortable?
I had pity from her, because it was like uh, very difficult to see, and I didn't know what to do in that situation. I think that it's something that all Mexicans should know how to act in that kind of situations, but it is very difficult because not all the Mexicans know about it.
And in that time, like when you were with your friend, did you say something or to them, like to the construction workers?
It's very difficult because they are you don't know with which kind of person you are getting into. Well, not to them, but to her, like, okay, so don't worry, it will be okay, you're with me. They won't do anything. They probably just uh, I don't know, shout to you or something like that.
So, actually, this question is based on what you said. What do you think about street harassment?
I think that it's the worst case scenario that you can be on, because you don't know what to do. And well, I was talking about when I was with a girl, but what about when they're alone? It's a very difficult situation that they don't know how to manage, because uh, as I said before, men are the worst. So yeah, that's what I think about street harassment.
Why do you think that perspective acquires to you?
Okay, so I think that harassment has gone social media, uh, not not so many time ago, and I think that this has helped us to understand what harassment is, because I think that previously we have like this wrong idea about harassment, and we thought as if if it was funny, but it isn't.
What is the impact of harassment on your personal life?
Okay, so I live with, well, in my family, we have my mother and my sister. So I don't have this kind of direct harassment, but I have it indirectly. And it's difficult for me to tell her to tell my sister how to dress, and she could dress as she wants, but it's difficult for her to go out and have a crop top, something like that. And this is how I think I let it. I think that men are the ones that do not, well, have no harassment, because I don't know, mainly because men are the ones that harass. So I think that women are the ones who have to be aware of.
What are the beliefs about that issue in your group or in a family or in your community?
Okay, so as I said, it's something that now we are aware of. Now we know that we have to speak up for this topic. We know that if we stand still, probably no one is going to hear us. So in my group of friends, in my family, it's something that we're aware of, and well, we try to support every kind of movement that they're making about it.
Do you think this issue has an economic impact in the society?
Uh, Probably not as an economic, but I think that this issue goes it goes from the economic. Okay, so it doesn't has like uh it's not a causation, the economic, but the economic is a causation of it, because people who, well, as we know, Mexico has like about 40% of poor people, and this leads to insecurity. And what happens is that people does not know how, they do not has this like this education and these values, so they can treat women as equally or men as equally.
I also think like the lack of education, right? Like due to the poor situation Mexico lives, the lack of education is like the principal reason why this problem is so serious in our country.
Yeah, I think I think the same, and I think that, well, it won't change if we don't change like the root of it. Uh, we have to start from the bottom to change all the situation, and and the government. Okay, the government can do something about it, but we won't. The government won't do anything if we don't have like these strengths to talk about it. That it's a fact that it's occurring, and it is a problem very big for our society.
Do you think it has a environmental or a social impact in the country?
Yes, a social impact, environmental. I think not. Well, I think like it has a it's a social dilemma, because now, yes, we know how to treat these kind of situations. Now we're gonna go to the police and we're gonna talk about it, but uh, socially, it's something that especially men needs to stop doing, because, as I said it, for some persons they think it's kind of funny, but it isn't. And and women get this pressure and this and intimidation, and they do not know how to get the strength to say to a man, no, stop it. And yeah, that's how I think it's impacting the social ambit.
Okay. And in your opinion, who are the most likely to be sexually harassed? Like, because men also can be harassed, but
Yes, 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 yes. We both be harassed, but more women. I cannot think like a situation where I have been in which a man told another man and they thought, well, they feel harassed. but I can think in a lot of situations where probably I wasn't there, but somebody else talked to me and and show me what the situation was, and it's normally a man to a woman. So yes, I think that women are the ones that will have a lot of harassment these days.
How do you think we can stop this problem?
Well, education. If to show everyone that we're equal and that we have the same rights, and probably if we get into the legal part, probably the government should uh, should build some new rules about what are the consequences if you harass someone else, because it's very easy to pay like the bill for getting out of jail, but it's not solving the problem, right? So the the consequences should be bigger for people who harass.
What I was talking with a friend was that like these are some things that are not teach at school. They're from like at home, literally, like from your parents. It is something that parents is to teach to their children with values, like people with values. And I think it's very bad that if it's not teach at home, at school, it's not even going to be like a topic to talk about it.
Yes.
What do you think about giving classes or giving like education about these kind of problems, because they're more like in our present, like it's something, it's happening, and it's something it needs to be stopped.
Yes, I think the same. I think that uh, what is going to happen if we don't solve this problem, it will probably uh, will become bigger and bigger, and nobody, as before, nobody would like to talk about it because they do not know that it exists. So yeah, it's something that is coming to us. It's something that it's a very big issue in our society, and and it will help us in so many ways. The women feeling as equal as men, and this will help with work, with the schools. Everything's gonna change.
Do you think the situations like in Mexico is different from other countries?
Yes, yes. This goes from the all the cultural way they think. Uh, like you're not going to see some dude. Well, you can. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but it's the 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 chances for it to happen it's smaller than in Mexico. That if you go to, I don't know, some place like Japan or Korea, where they have very strong way of thinking, and they have a very like open mind about how to treat everyone equally and how to respect others, you won't see that kind of situation. So I think that this is probably because of the country that we live, but the all the cultural stuff that we have, where machismo in Mexico is something that it's very known. It's something that has changed. We know that we have one of the biggest rates of feminicidios in Mexico. So yeah, I think that it won't be the same if you go to another country.
Well, that's it. Thanks for your interview, and
Thanks for inviting me.
see you soon. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, Paola. My name is Tania Cameron.
How old are you?
I'm 53 years old.
And where do you live?
I live in Chicago, Illinois.
So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and you're going to tell me what do you think about it. So, what is
Okay.
your perspective on harassment?
Well, I think that it has changed quite a bit with the years since I was young. I've been seeing like an evolution around this important topic for women and men as well. So I've been surprised how much it has changed and how much strength has gotten. I think that everybody now, at least, is aware that is something that people need to pay attention to and be more careful. Maybe they don't have all the education about the topic, but they have heard something about it and they know that it's something that shouldn't be happening.
What do you consider as harassment?
Well, to me, harassment it could be when somebody's trying to make you do something that you don't want to do or makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes I don't know very well the difference. Sometimes it can start like a bullying, maybe, but I think that the difference is that they want you to maybe do something. That's where I think I understand the difference.
Have you ever been harassed?
I don't think that I've been harassed. I have felt more like, how do you say, like machismo, like in the workplace, but not in a way that they wanted me to, or it's like again like ignorance. They could have said that made you feel like that's sexist. I don't consider that harassment. Maybe I'm wrong. More like attitude towards me as a woman and the role of a woman in the office versus a man.
Where do you think you are most likely to be harassed?
It's hard to say. I guess it depends on the people that surround you more than the place, right? Like depends. Like to me, harassment has to do a lot with values and education and rather than places, right? Because yeah, you can say, well, at the beach if I'm wearing a bikini, well, maybe not. Maybe you are surrounded by people that are aware of what is right and what is wrong and what is acceptable and what's not, and it doesn't have to do with how you are dressed or where you are at. It's more about you can be in the office perfectly dressed and very proper, and maybe somebody is trying to make you do something you or insinuate something that you don't want to do.
But do you think it's more like in the public sector or in the private sector?
Well, I haven't been in the public sector working, so I don't know, but and I don't want to draw some stereotypes or anything because it wouldn't be fair. But like I said, sometimes it's like the education, and education is not just the school, is really instilling values and explaining to people what it's right and what it's not right, and especially at this time and in the world, like we are in the 21st century, and maybe it's not appropriate that somebody tells you, oh, I like your miniskirt, right? They shouldn't be making any comments like that. Maybe in the past, when I was younger, they might have said some comments like that, but it didn't mean anything to me because it was not all this awareness. So for me, was like, oh, thank you, right? Like to me, didn't mean anything, and I didn't take it as a harassment. But I think that nowadays men and women have to be very careful also how they behave in the workplace, because they might get into trouble, and sometimes this has gotten too far. Maybe people don't mean it in a bad way or anything, but then people might take it the wrong way when it was not a big deal. So that's another thing, right? Like there's always like a fine line when it is like, okay, this is what you mean by harassment when you cross the line. The other thing is if you say, oh, I like your hair, that doesn't mean that they want you to go to bed with them, right?
I think, like, as you said before, like when you were younger, it was very different, like how I live it. Because now if I go to the street and someone tells me like you're cute, but like in a bad way, not like a compliment, I feel uncomfortable. And I think that it's what the problem is that if someone tells you something and it makes you feel uncomfortable, but it was not like in your case because you were like, oh, it's okay, thank you, like a compliment, because those things weren't very common on your, like when you were growing up.
Yes, or you just, for example, your example of the street. Yes, it was uncomfortable that maybe somebody shouted at you, but no one had told you that that was harassment. So it was like, oh, it's this thing, but you know, and then maybe you just went the other way or dealt with it instead of now. I think that is good that with all this evolution, society has empowered women in this case, because it can also be men, right? But they have empowered women to say that's not okay. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, they shouldn't be doing that. So in a way, it's good that there's this awareness society needs to do to try to build values through school, probably, and could be other ways. Media could, you know, raise awareness, and present good examples of what it is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Also, tell people that it's not okay, and that you can also report the people that are telling you that, because that's not okay.
What do you think about street harassment?
Not appropriate, very annoying. I think that here in the US, you don't feel that. I think that in Mexico, it was more like maybe they were like whistling at you or whatever, but you never felt that they were going to do anything to you. It was, they were just trying to get your attention, right? And that's the way your mom told you, like, well, like, kind of like, don't pay attention and keep on walking. But it was, I was never scared if somebody was like shouting something. Like, it was, I knew that nothing was going to happen. Here, I think that to me is worse, because is it's not going to be harassment. Like, I mean, I don't know, it depends where you live, but in my experience, I live in a nice neighborhood, so it's not like somebody's going to be shouting at me. Here the problem is like, all of a sudden, if something is bad is going to happen, is because somebody's going to pull you and maybe rape you. Maybe in other neighborhoods, maybe happens what happens in Mexico, and I cannot talk about that because I haven't lived that. But here, I think that I have never experienced that kind of the whistling, but I'm still very aware of my surroundings, because all of a sudden can be a lot worse than just harassment in the street.
What is the impact of harassment on your personal life?
I haven't had a problem, so it hasn't affected my life. I think it would be really hard for somebody that is harassed. Imagine like every day going to work with somebody that, you know, is trying to flirt with you, but you don't want, and maybe it's your boss. Fortunately, actually, one thing that I can tell you, when I have worked here in big corporations, they the human resources, every, I don't know if it's every year, but very often they send plenty of questionnaires. Like, you have to so they are mandatory, so that you can fill out, and it's with bribery or corruption, or but also they have also these surveys about harassment. Like, if you see anything happening, you have to report it, and even if it's not happening to you, you have to report it. So that's nice. Personally, I have felt well, lucky that I don't have that, but also I felt protected by my company in case there was something.
I think like the fact that now we know what is harassment has made us like more conscious about the situation, right? Like now you know that it's something that can happen like everywhere. You have to be careful, not just in one country. Like, well, for example, in Mexico, we know that even though we live in a nice place, it is something that happens, unfortunately, like always. And I don't know, like in the United States, there should be like zones where it happens most, but like in general, it is something that happens everywhere.
Yep, it happens. I would imagine everywhere, because I think that is changing, and so obviously there are people that do not understand or don't want to understand, but also people that are they haven't, learned or gotten the message, and that they live in a different generation where it was still okay to be a little bit sexist, but also sometimes even like harass, use their power, because I think that's also another thing, right? I don't know, maybe the definition of harassment, uh, and I don't know if it's for all, but has to do with a little bit of power from one side, that through their power they want you to behave in certain ways.
What do you think is the economical and social impact of harassment on your community or your country?
I mean, I don't think it would matter that much. Like my example of, yes, maybe you quit your job, but it's not like, I don't think that will make a huge splash in the whole economy. It's not okay for actually the person that is quitting. I mean, if it was in big amounts of people, obviously it would affect the economy. But I don't know. I just think that in general, just having a better life or security in what you're doing, people can work more productively, and that would be better for the economy.
Has the way you dress ever changed to avoid sexual harassment?
Well, I haven't had it, right? But I think that I'm a little bit like in the middle, because here that people are like, you can do whatever you want, and still is, they don't have the right to say anything. I understand that that's like how it should be, but I think that if you dress very with short miniskirt, huge cleavage, and it becomes more difficult to keep people in line. But the theory is that, it doesn't matter how you dress, no one has the right to harass you. So that's like what you hear here. What I do with myself or my daughter, I try not to do or dress in certain ways that I might get into that kind of troubles. I think that anyhow there's like appropriate dress code for any kind of situation. Like um or in Mexico, like if you don't want to assault you, you don't wear all this kind of jewelry, right? But who's wrong? Well, of course, it's not you that you are wearing all the jewelry. It's the person that is a bad person that is trying to rob you. It would be better for you if you didn't get all that attention. The theory is that you should do whatever you want, and nonetheless they have to behave. But I personally, I'm more in the middle of, okay, I'm gonna try to do a little bit my part so that I don't get or that to that problem.
How do you think this problem can be stopped?
Like I said, just I think that is with instilling values and spreading the word. There are people that maybe don't know is wrong. As I said, I have never been harassed, but just like with the sexist comments, I can assure you that this person didn't know that what was saying was like, what are you talking about? Like, I am I'm the same as you, and I was in the workplace, and but it was very, he was very like, actually he really liked me. He was treating me as part of his family, but his comments were so sexist. So no one had told him that that's not okay. Like, actually, you don't want that for your daughter, right? So it's like, I wonder how this person now would say if I told him, like, remember when you told me this, because he would be like probably horrified that I why did I say that. He was basically saying like, why do you want an increase in salary if you're gonna get married and have kids? And so I was like, what? That doesn't have to do with anything. I deserve my increase in salary by my evaluation, and that's it. Like, what are you talking about? Totally unacceptable nowadays. And I don't think that he was so honest, and he was just telling me like that I don't he didn't mean it in a bad way, but it was appalling. So I think that it's education, it's tell your kids what it's okay, what it's not, and the media and school and I don't know, your whatever church, they should be telling you like what it is normal to you, but it's like making sure that people understand that you you cannot be I mean it's common sense, but you cannot use that power no matter what to make people do anything that they don't want. And um, I mean it seems very basic, but other thing that they can do is what I told you, the instances where you can report all these behavior, like in the company where you work or the government or whatever. um, if it's a neighbor, but like or whomever, maybe also I don't know, you can call maybe the police and report a harassment. So attack the problem from the beginning with education, but also like if it's still happening, or while you do that, to have instances to report this behavior.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all.
You're welcome, Paola.